Okay, so we have confirmed that everything is working from here. So again, welcome to this info session. Now, we are going to talk about a new action, although it has an old name. So the European Youth Together action has been run by the executive agency since 2018. However, in this new program period for Erasmus+, which starts this year, 2021, we have put at the end of this action the word grassroots. So it's actually a new action which we're talking about. It's an action which focuses on reaching out to grassroots youth organizations in order for them to get the experience to work together on a European level. Sorry. So in this session, will take several hours. We will concentrate to a large degree on the more technical aspects of the action. That is to say, the substance, what is it that you have to do in order to be able to submit an application, and also to be successful in what you want to do. That's one part. The other part, and we will start with that, is what is it that we have in this action in terms of substance, in terms of what we want to do with this action. Now, it's an action which under the Erasmus Plus program is called a so-called Key Action 3. So it's an action which has been designed in order to go in and look at policy support. So youth organizations are working in this area in order to do policy support in a number of different ways. Again, my name is Lene Meyer. I'm coming from the European Education and Culture Executive Agency. I'm Deputy Head of Unit in the unit where we are working with the Erasmus Plus program, the youth part, and we're also working with the European Solidarity Corps. Here's the agenda for today's session. I will stop speaking in a couple of minutes, and my colleague from the European Commission, from the Director General Education and Culture, Fabienne Mettmeyer, she will take over and talk a bit about the youth policy context. Then we will go into all the technicalities of the call. So how to prepare an application, how are we evaluating the applications, and how you have what you have to deal with in terms of IT tools and so on. And I can tell you already from the beginning that we have, during this last year, when we have changed from one program period to another program period. So now we are in the program period which starts with 2021, which will run until 2027. During this last year, we have also changed all the IT tools which we are working with in the agency. So you will be confronted with a new system, what we call the e-grant system, a number of new IT tools on how to submit your applications. We are going to explain that. What we also have is something new, and it's for nearly all Erasmus Plus actions, and also the actions which we run in the youth area. That is what we have new funding models. So in this area for European Youth Together Grassroots, we have a new funding model. So it's called the lump sum 2 approach. It doesn't tell you a lot, but we're going to explain to you what it means in terms of how you have to prepare your budget. At the end of this morning, so around 11:30, I think, we will have a question and answer session. This session is also recorded, and we will make it available on the agency website, so you can all go in and check if there are some details which you would like to recall later on when you are sitting working with your applications. I hope we will have a successful morning, no technical issues. I have the whole team here around me, and we are very happy to accommodate you and also to answer your questions, should you have any. Can they ask the questions in the chat function? Or?
They get to send it to the mailbox.
Okay, yes. So I'm just checking, because we have a number of ways that we're doing these info sessions, and in this case, if you have questions, you need to check to send them to our what we call the use functional mailbox. It's use at EC Europa EU. I hope you have this, all of you. You see it in the invitation. We sent the invitation out to a lot of you who have applied for funding through us during the last year. And again, welcome to this info session. And now we go to Fabienne and the policy context. Thank you very much.
Hello, good morning. So as Lene told you, my name is Fabienne Métayer. I work as head of sector for youth policy in the European Commission, in the directorate in charge of education and culture. And I'm here to give you a bit of policy and program context, because this call, that is very important for us, is part of a European program that is also very important for us in a very special year. Why is this a special year? Of course, I think it's a special year for all of us around the world due to the current pandemic that we have lived for now over a year, actually. And of course, this pandemic has effects on everybody, but we know that it has a very strong impact on young people in Europe, and of course a very strong impact on the youth sector. For us, it's also a very special year because it is the year for this new generation of European programs, including Erasmus Plus and the European Solidarity Corps. It's also coincidentally a year where we have succeeded to have a much bigger budget for this European program, so also much bigger budget for European youth. It will be over 7 years, around 2.5 billion euros, only for the youth sector under Erasmus+. And we'll have for the European Solidarity Corps over 1 billion euros, again for these 7 years between 2021 and 2027. It's a special year also because the negotiations between the legislators at the European level, it's the European Parliament and the Council of the European Union, were delayed, took some time, not only for our programs, but more generally to devise the multi-annual financial framework that allows us to dedicate certain amounts of money to all these different policy areas. So it took some time. That's why we were only able to launch calls such as this one quite late in the year. But it is the case for many, many European programs, not only for Erasmus+. We know that the youth sector is very eager to start again with working, being able to have face-to-face meetings, youth exchanges, and we hope that the new programs will be able to accompany this recovery also, this starting again to have all these activities. So this European Youth Together call is really a part of a big scheme to accompany recovery. There are many opportunities already this year under the new Erasmus Plus program or under the new Solidarity Corps program for European NGOs, for youth NGOs, also beyond actually the EU. If I can just name a few of the activities that we have both new or renewed under the Erasmus Plus program. We have new formats for youth participation. So it could be also interesting for many of you today to know that managed by national agencies, so at national level, we have launched calls to support youth participation activities. This is one of the new formats. We have also renewed calls for youth exchanges. We have also many activities that we can support for cooperation between actors in the youth field, between NGOs. So also invite you to have a look at that, cooperation for partnerships, and also more specifically under the support for policy, and what is called Key Action 3 under the Erasmus Plus program. There is, of course, European Youth Together, but you can also find many other activities supported at centralized level, so that by the executive agency, as Lena mentioned. So also I would like to mention that to accompany these programs, we have the European Youth Strategy, which is a policy framework to encourage member states towards reinforced cooperation for youth, for young people. So we have tools also that can accompany policy developments at national level. And we believe that for member states, it can be also added value to be part of this cooperation. They can learn from each other on different aspects, such as democratic participation of young people, or youth work, or learning mobility. So we really work also with them in order to accompany the process of policy development. So I wish you a very fruitful session and info day on European Youth Together, and I encourage you to take really an active part in building back better together. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Fabienne, for this introduction of the policy context. My name is José Gutiérrez. I'm the head of sector in Lena's unit, in the unit in charge of youth and solidarity in the executive agency. We're going to enter now into the more practical part, but starting liaising a little bit with the messages that have been passed by Fabienne just now. It is important to put the action European Youth Together in its context. It's an action that belongs to Key Action 3. I like to visualize the program as a pyramid with 3 levels. We have Key Action 1, the basis, which is the most important level in numbers and in budget. 70% at least of the budget is dedicated to mobility activities for individuals in the field of education, training, youth and sport. Then we have the second level of the pyramid, which is Key Action 2, which is cooperation at organization level. So we deal with individuals in Key Action 1, we deal with organizations in Key Action 2, and we deal with systems in Key Action 3. And this is the important aspect that you get to bear in mind when designing your project for European Youth Together proposal. These proposals aim at acting at systemic level. So in terms of impact also, you could imagine this pyramid by saying the bottom level aims to have an impact at individual level. Key Action 2, the middle strand aims to have an impact on organizational level, while projects funded under Key Action 3 must have an impact on the policy, on the general context of policy. And that's important to bear in mind. In this context, our new Key Action 3 action, European Youth Together at grassroots, aim at facilitating access to EU policies, raising awareness on EU policies, to youth organizations which may have a limited experience in European cooperation. Organizations that are working mainly in their local context. This can be a local context at a regional level or even national level, but who have less experience in entering into partnerships and in cooperation at EU level. In this context, the action aims at facilitating participation, stimulating innovation, having, as it said at the bottom of the slide, the voice heard from the youth population at EU level. In this part of the presentation, we will move from generic aspects or more horizontal aspects to practical ones. And in order to express this concept of an action aiming at supporting policy, I'm going to ask my colleague Dervala to present one example of a European Youth Together project that was funded in 2018.
Thank you, Jose. Good morning. My name is Derval O'Callaghan. I work with the youth team here in the agency, particularly on European Youth Together. And I'm going to speak to you about an example of one of our beneficiaries. So Red Glow, a project which was funded under the 2018 European Youth Together call, is a project which really exemplifies this spirit of Key Action 3 and also inclusion and diversity, which remain an important horizontal aspect of this call. So over 2 years, the Red Glow project achieved its objective of promoting the social inclusion and civic participation of young women, particularly women who came from underrepresented groups and disadvantaged backgrounds, so those who were marginalised and disenfranchised in their communities and also in the world of work. The project targeted a variety of women from these groups, from schoolgirls to youth workers to those interested in volunteering within their own communities. And through this volunteering and also youth exchanges, workshops and seminars organised on leadership and citizenship, the professional development and the civic engagement of these women were fostered. On the systemic level that Jose has just spoken about, this project united organisations with more experience working on an EU level with those who were more accustomed to really working on a local level in their communities. And the project allowed them to come together and to advocate on behalf of the women that they worked for on a European level. So as a result, the project issued various toolkits and videos that could be used by other youth workers, and also issued policy recommendations which were focused on promoting women's advancement in their communities and the world of work. At the bottom of the slides will be shared later, you can find the link to the project page on the Erasmus Plus project results platform. So we encourage you to look through their outputs and also to look through other projects which were funded in the last 2 years under European Youth Together, just to find some inspiration for your projects. So I will now pass you back to Jose, who will get into more detail about the general and specific objectives of this call. Thank you.
Thank you, Dervala. Yes, we went to K3, to European Youth Together now, and we're going to enter really into what the action, what we expect the action to be, by addressing the general objectives of the action. The action targets, as we've already said, and we will repeat it all over this info day during this morning, it targets youth organizations at grassroots level that have limited experience in cooperating at European level. As a result, the objective of the action and the activities that will be supported aim at connecting EU-level youth organizations and grassroots NGOs operating at local level. The network will these networks will organize cooperation exchanges, training. They will contribute to the promotion of EU policies in the field of youth, and in particular the EU Youth Strategy, with these 3 key messages about engage, connect, and empower, to promote the 11 EU youth goals, and to promote the youth dialogue and its priorities. Just a parenthesis on youth dialogue, we are also supporting national working groups at member state level who are accompanying this dialogue in each of our 27 member states. Finally, because of the age in which we are, because of the current situation for almost 1 year and a half now, we cannot ignore the impact that the COVID-19 pandemic has had on the youth sector and on our societies in general. As a result, we expect, and it's part of the objectives of the action, that the proposals that will be submitted will also bring innovative strategies in order to limit the effect of pandemics such as the one resulting from the COVID. So this dimension is an important one. Last but not least, the program is supported by horizontal priorities. These priorities are linked to inclusion, democratic access and democratic dialogue, and also digital skills and green lifestyle. So these priorities, although they are not directly indicated into the general objectives of the actions, are clearly lines that you should always keep in mind when thinking about your proposal and presenting your proposal to the executive agency. In order to express a little bit these objectives in a more contextual way, I will now give the floor to Samira, who is going to present another example of a project which has been funded in 2018 under the EYT action. Samira.
Good morning, everyone. So, first of all, it's important to remember that one of the main objectives of this action is to encourage young people to participate in policy design and reform, especially in the sector the most relevant to them. Besides that, the actions have the advantage to reach a wide diversity of youth organizations. For example, the 2018 project, I Vote My Europe, My Say. So I will just pass. Has been led by the European Scout Region Movement in partnership with the IEGEE, European Student Forum. The project delivered a 4-month transnational campaign and engaged a large number of young people from diverse backgrounds across Europe. They raised awareness about political engagement, EU identity and values, and the importance of participating in the last 2019 EU election. The positive aspect of the project is that the young people have been both the beneficiary and the shaper of the project, allowing them to play different roles and taking responsibility for their own learning outcome. The project is also a good example of cooperation. The consortium includes 49 partner organizations representing youth NGOs, student organizations, and relevant players in developing youth people civic engagement through non-formal education. In terms of impact, the project reached a large number of young people between 18 and 25 years old. The tangible outreach includes 500 young people and youth workers involved in the activity at European level and around 30,000 young people involved in the activity at national level. Finally, in terms of sustainability, the project website contains a good range of high-quality material that will continue to attract the target audience beyond the life of the project. The good practice is already led by the strong partnership with policymakers on national and European level. Moreover, it will continue to support youth participation at the 2024 European Parliament election. Do not hesitate to check their website. Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to José, who will explain the specificity of this call.
Thank you, Samira. I realized that I went just a little bit fast, and I should have also put the slide on specific objectives, so allow me to to go 2 steps backwards and just underline what Samira has said, because in fact, by presenting this project, she's already addressed the important specific objectives of the actions in terms of supporting the implementation of EU policies. We have already said it. She underlined also an important aspect, which is to ensure the participation of a variety, a diversity of groups of young people, underrepresented, less underrepresented, but nevertheless the objective of the action should be to be as comprehensive in terms of coverage of the young population as possible. And finally, we already said it in the general objective. COVID-19 remains a big marker of what Erasmus Plus 2021-2027 will be. And by talking about the horizontal priorities like the digital support or the Green Europe, it's clear that these elements in terms of taking care of our citizens, taking care of our youth populations, are elements which are at the heart of our action. So, specificities of the call, going quite quickly. Lena said it at the beginning, it's a new action, but nevertheless it's an action which has been built on the experience gained after three selections under European Youth Together in the former program. The observation that we had at the end of this implementation, or in 2020, was that there was probably a need to scale down the size and the ambition of EYT by allowing less experienced actors to come in. And that's probably the key characteristic of this reshaped European Youth Together grassroots, is that there is a need to involve, and we have said it in the presentation of the action in the objective, there is a need to involve not only experienced organizations, but more importantly, organizations that are currently working at local level. So you may certainly start asking questions on what is a grassroots NGO. There is no definition of a grassroots NGO. The definition is linked, or the concept is linked to the scope of the organization's activities that are working at local level without crossing the border of their region or their country, should be considered as grassroots. Nevertheless, in order to put quite an easy marker in identifying the partnerships and their eligibility, it is necessary that at least half of the partners have not been recipient of funding under European Youth Together in the previous 2 years. So we will look in the database that in our database that this condition is fulfilled. By saying European Youth Together, we don't exclude organizations that may have had experience in other actions of youth. We thought that this would be too exclusive, but please keep it in mind. When constructing your partnerships, you've got to have 4 Erasmus Plus program countries. You will see also, when we will address the award criteria, that the geographical spread of these countries should reflect the diversity of European cultures, European idiosyncrasy in the different areas of our union. So this is an important element also, but we will certainly verify that the second condition about the number of non-beneficiaries of EYT grants in the past is fulfilled. The global budget is 3 million, as you certainly have seen in the program guide. The maximum grant is 150,000. So we expect to fund at least 20 projects, and more probably around 25 or 30, depending on your grant requests. The duration of the project is fixed, it's 2 years. This allows the partnership to take time in preparing these projects. I repeat, the objective is to have an impact in the community, but also at European level, or to create long-lasting expectations of cooperation within the network. As a result, we don't believe that 2 years is too much. So you present your program, you present your work program in a time span that should give you sufficient possibilities to achieve your objectives. As I said, the maximum grant 150,000 euros. I take advantage also about this slide on the specificity of the call to reassure those that were involved in European Youth Together in the past, and to tell them that there will be a normal European Youth Together call in the future. For the time being, and for 2021. The decision was taken to start with this grassroots. We will see in a few months how we will continue or re-support projects submitted under EYT, let's say, traditional. I will conclude this part and have the same approach as I had with Dervala and Tamara a few minutes, and Samira a few minutes ago, by introducing now a project coordinator, Tamara Gojkovic, project coordinator of a 2019 project, which is still ongoing, but we thought that in the composition of the partnership, but also in the activities that Tamara is implementing with her partners, it was a good illustration of what we aim to achieve, even if Tamara's project was funded under the former or more traditional EYT action. We believe that many of the things that she will present now should be brought to your attention, should raise your interest, and should help you also having a better concept and a better idea of what your proposal could entail. So I will ask Tamara to take the floor now to present her project.
Thank you very much, Jose. Hello, everybody. I believe that I'm looking at the right place. My name is Tamara. I come from Youth for Exchange and Understanding, and I will be presenting a project called Brave New You Reloaded. And Reloaded because it's a follow-up of a project that we have been implementing already in 2018, but thought that it's very important to continue working with local communities around Europe and with young people of different backgrounds. And basically that is the essence of our project, because we are working in 10 local communities around Europe with young people who are coming from really diverse backgrounds. And what are they doing? They're identifying hateful narratives, creating counter ones, and then speaking about them and trying to support each other at the European level. At the same time, they're also creating recommendations for both local and European level, how to change things. And these are some of the things that I will also be talking about. What are the secret ingredients of a European Youth Together project? I think that you've seen already two excellent projects that have been implemented under 2018 call. This one is still ongoing, and it started basically in time when COVID-19 pandemic started. And we thought, okay, now what are we going to do? We, after some time, of course, we adapted. And as you can see in the slide, it's not only about having diverse partnership, but also about adaptability, resilience, which in this case means going digital, but also contributing to policy development, because these projects really need to contribute to something that will last and stay for other young people and generations to come. And I believe that the most important ingredient that you all and we all that are practitioners in the youth field and civil society should never forget that it's all about young people who are out there and about improving their lives in terms of quality, but also diversity when it comes to cultures and getting to know each other. And I do believe that although it's a bit difficult, you can do that online as well. So what about diverse partnership? When it comes to partnership, you can see on the slide where we are working. So from Portugal to Sweden, from Estonia to Greece. We have in our consortium 11 partners in total. That includes grassroots organizations, organizations that are working at regional or national level, but they're still working with groups of young people. And European NGOs that are working at the European level. So this kind of partnership may seem maybe complex to some, but it's actually working very well, and it gives us different levels of complexity of the projects, and we are managing to take into account different aspects of all the levels that we are working at. And then I already mentioned that we started our project in basically when COVID-19 started. We only managed to meet once for kickoff meeting, so we had to think through how to be resilient, how to adapt our project, because it was either implementing it online and managing how to go through different challenges at the local level when local groups are meeting, or not implementing the project, which of course was not in question. Our groups never met physically. We never had, as I said, a meeting together of all the groups, but they know each other. And how is that possible? Because we are organizing a lot of different online activities. Some of them, one of them at least, that we organized is a youth exchange, and currently we are planning another one. And we did it using different digital tools. And I think that's important to consider, that even if you would think, well, yeah, that's very difficult, it's not that difficult if you take into account that in the end of the day, these young people will get to know each other and share. So what we used was Zoom, Mentimeter, Kahoot, GatherTown, even Discord. And if you don't know these tools, I'm quite sure that young people that you're working with directly will know them. And why does it work? Because we are adapting the duration of the activities. We usually shorten them. I already mentioned some of the tools that we are using. It's very important that when you're going online to use the terminology that is known to everyone, well, that part not only online, of course, and you need to ensure that your activities are fun as well, and that people are enjoying them and learning at the same time. When it comes to gathering young people of diverse backgrounds, it's very important to create a safe space. Leave some space for your groups to get to know each other, because that aspect always pays off. And of course, if young people are coming from different backgrounds, that also means that very often you will be seeing linguistic barriers or encountering them. Try to use activities, that's something that we are doing, that require more creative expression. Everybody's having fun, everybody's learning, and everybody feels welcomed, and they participate in an equal manner. And then what about policy development? Sometimes it's a difficult aspect for some of the organizations, especially if you think, well, how can I do that? Everything that we are doing in the youth field can always contribute to the implementation of the EU Youth Strategy and European Youth Goals. And what you're seeing is something that we believe and want to contribute to. We are also building on the experiences of the new narrative for Europe. And as all of us, we are trying to engage, connect, and empower, following the 3 principles of the EU Youth Strategy. How do we do that in practice, especially in a project that is working a lot at the local level? Well, we are talking with young people and groups about challenges, about obstacles that they're facing. You don't have to use big words to be able to discuss things that do matter for European Youth Strategy and the policy level. Then, after that, we are defining potential solutions together with young people, and that's the most important aspect, I believe, in the work that we are doing and that youth sector is in general doing. And then we are also consulting with other stakeholders, is it at the local or European level, and saying, okay, but this is what young people believe should be done, should be changed. Okay, let's see how that can be done. I believe that these aspects are really secret ingredients to implementation of a European Youth Together grant or any other project that you want to do. And what's, again, the most important, let young people decide and take the lead when it comes to different activities, because they will be more than willing to take part in such difficult times that we are facing right now. That's from my side. Good luck with your applications and hopefully implementation of the projects. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Tamara. I'm sure that the participants have taken good note and learned a lot by listening to your presentation and the experience gained in your project. So that was concluding a little bit the general part of our info session today. We are now going to enter in the most practical, technical, difficult part, I may say, and I want to apologize from the start because I think we thought it was important that you understand as well as us, and I must confess that we are discovering the new application tool almost at the same time as you, a little bit before, a few weeks before. My colleagues and myself, we've been testing the forms, discovering the new environment. So we thought this year in particular it was important to dedicate all the necessary time in how to prepare an application and how to submit it to our e-grants system. Some of you may be familiar with e-grants because this is also the corporate application that is used in many EU programs, and in particular the ones on research. So for those potential applicants who have already submitted applications to our colleagues from the research services, you should be familiar with the e-grant environment. For us, and for most of our youth population, this is a new challenge, and we will do our best to help you this morning with the presentation that we're going to make, but also all over the almost 2 months that are remaining before the deadline for application. In order to start, I will give the floor now to my colleague Cristina Fernandez, who is going together with me to present a first part on preparing your application and addressing the award criteria. And after the break, we will go into even more technical issues concerning the definition of your work packages and the preparation of your budget. So I give the floor now to Cristina.
Thank you, Jose. So here we are going, as Jose explained, we are going to try to guide you through this new submission system and to give you some advice and tips for preparing your proposal. So we have conceived this presentation not only because it's not our purpose today to overwhelm with a lot of information. There is a very exhaustive explanation of every stage, a lot of documents. So our intention today is just also to guide you to give the explanations, and this presentation will be available after this info session in the website of the agency. I will help you there to assist you as the supporting document, a reference document during the preparation of your application. So before starting, and as Lene has advanced, Jose also, just some information to put you in context with regards to the submission systems. In fact, for the new programming period 21-27, the European Commission has put in place a single entry point for all the requests for EU funding. And this request has to have all of them have to be submitted through the system that is the EU Funding and Tenders portal. This harmonization does not concern only this submission system, but also some submission reference documents as the templates. You will see if you have already gone to the portal, that there will not be a specific application for EYT grassroots action. These are standard forms for all the Erasmus Plus support actions. So we advise you to be as flexible as possible, and just when you are preparing your proposal and in face of this application, just keep in mind always the program guide and your proposal, how to fit your proposal into the requirements of the program guide. So this is also the first time that the agency is implemented the system for the selection of proposals for a European Youth Together. So as Jose says, we are learning more or less at the same time of you. So we are aware that the system is not perfect, and there will be facing both you and us some disruptions or technical issues during the submission process. We are here to assist you in this process, so don't hesitate to send us an email, your question, to the functional mailbox that we will remind at the end. Okay, that's, in this presentation, we'll give, as I said, we have this standard form, and here we will give you some recommendations, tips, advices on how to fit it more for EYT grassroots action. There are recommendations. You are free to follow or not. You'll not be penalized for that, but we think that this can help you in the comprehension of some concept that maybe is not very suitable for, they are not mentioned in the program, etc., etc. Okay, so the starting point is to find the application in the funding and tenders portal. Here is the main page, and I draw your attention at the bottom of the page that you have the 5 steps your proposal has to go through this process. And we will go through all these steps during this presentation. So this is the single portal and entry point for all the requests for funding. So you have to find the one for European Youth Together that in the funding and tenders portal is called small, among the almost 400 open calls that are currently open for submission. You can use the different filters here for programming period, for the program Erasmus+, etc. Okay, you are now already, you found it, you are in the topic page. You will see different terms, but maybe that is technical, like type of action, topic, etc. Don't get confused for that. It's not relevant for preparing your preparation. However, if you are interested to know a little bit more, in the funding and tenders portal, you have a glossary in the support section, and you have all the definitions and for these terms. So the first thing, you get familiar with all the sections you will find here, but in particular, you have to take time with the conditions and documents section. There, you read the 2 main reference documents for preparing your application. That is the Erasmus Program Guide 2021 and the online manual. The program guide will provide you the objectives, the scope of the action, and also the conditional requirements for participating and what is expected from a European Youth Together grassroots action. While the online manual will provide you technical information about the submission process and all the steps we are talking today here. The starting point to check the possible changes of your proposal in this selection of this, to check if your proposal would fit with the admissibility and eligibility criteria. The admissibility criteria in general, they are formal criteria that are general for almost for all the EU programs. And I would like especially draw your attention about the page limit. It's 120 pages. And it's set like that for this action. And we will see later on, it will be technically possible to upload documents application of more than 100 pages, but the excess of that quantity will be disregarded during the evaluation process. The eligibility criteria are set in the call conditions that you can also find in the topic page on the Funding and Tenders portal, and it refers to the conditions that has to fulfill the application and the consortium to be applying to this call. It concerns the profile and type of participating organization, the geographical scope and the minimum number of participating organizations, the venue, the duration, etc. Okay, so as you say, for the European Youth Together grassroots action must be submitted by a partnership. So I wanted to show you this functionality that you can find in the portal that is very useful, the partner search. There is one specific in the topic page for the European Youth Together grassroots actions, that there are people, organizations that are willing to find some partners for participating in the submitting a proposal for this call. And then there is a larger partner search that it searches for all the organizations registered in the portal, that it can broaden your search. Before just submitting your proposal, you have two more pre-steps to do. The first thing is that you create your EU login. That is not done yet, because the EU login is an individual account that will give you access to many services and tools in the portal. And then you have to register your organization in the participants register in the portal, and you will receive this PIC number that you have to use it for completing the application form. Please note that participating organization has to have a PIC that concerns coordinator, beneficiaries, and affiliated entities. Other type of a participating organization do not need to have a PIC, but well, it's not compulsory, let's say like that. Now you're ready, after fulfilling this step, you're ready to push the button of the submission. You can start the submission. Some practical advice at this stage, as always we insist, but in particular this year, don't wait until the last minute, because it always have a lot of, it can happen, technical issues and so on. So here in the manual, they recommend at least 48 hours before the deadline submission. You know that the deadline submission is another of the criteria to submit. It's fixed on the 24th June at 5 p.m. The application submitted at 5:01 will be disregarded. It will not be considered as admissible. For the submission, when you start your submission, preparing your proposal, you can do it at several times. Every time you are going to save your draft proposal, and you can always have access to your draft proposal in this section of my proposals. Okay, so then you arrive to the e-form. The e-form is composed by a web-based e-form that you will input the basic information regarding the project, and then 3 different forms. All of part A, part C is to be filled online, and part B, there are 2 documents that you have to download on your PC, and then you will upload it later on. Okay, the edit form consists in 3 main screens. As you see, the applicant organization, that means the coordinator, the lead applicant that submits the proposal on behalf of the partnership, has to enter his PIC, and then to indicate the contact person. There will be, for any organization, there has to be one main contact, that is only one, but then they cannot have so many contact persons that you want. And then you have a short summary here of your project. And then once you click the button Save and go to the next step, you will be receiving an automatic email with the draft ID, ID for your draft proposal. So you can always have there the reference and the link to have access to my proposal section. Then in this part, you have to add the partners. Please remember that according to the eligibility criteria, there are minimum 4 partners of at least 4 Erasmus program partners. Here in this section, regarding the eligibility criteria, we are talking about beneficiaries. Because here there is, we will see, as from 2021, participating organization can imply not only the coordinator and other beneficiaries that will become co-beneficiaries, but beneficiaries can also participate with affiliated entities. There are also other types of participating organizations that will be associated partners or subcontractors. Here in this section, you only have to encode beneficiaries and affiliated entities. Remember that the partners have to be established in an Erasmus program country. Here you have the different access to edit the other forms. Part A will be generated automatically once you click on Edit Forms. Part B is the documents to be downloaded, that will be together. And Part C is always, it will be generated also automatically and to fill it online once you click on Edit Part C. You see then the annexes will come back to later on. Only the parts marked in red are compulsory to be uploaded at this stage. So this is how to, this is regarding the e-form. So we are going to see now each form and how to fill it, how they look like. Part A. Part A is it retrieves some administrative data for the organization from the submission system. There are 3 sections: general information, participant, and budget. Okay, the participants they retrieve information from the form. The budget, it has to be in line with the budget form that we will see later on in Part B. This is the first part, the general information. You have here the, as I said, the duration of the month. Here is set by default 24 months because, as you said, there is a set, this duration of 2 years has set in the program guide for all the grassroots actions. And then these 3 keywords is that it's the main topics covered by your action or can be characterized. And then this is priorities. Is not, this section is not mandatory, but this section are very useful for statistical purposes for us, for us in order to assess how your action contribute to the European Commission policy priorities. If you click here, you will have access to these 6 priorities of the current Commission. You can, please, it's not a question of as many priorities as you want. It has to be some coherence with your content of your action, of course. If just is one, it's just one. It's not a question of quantity. This abstract part, it comes from the summary. You have already encoded it in form. If you want, it's also limited in the length to 2000. If you want to change something, you cannot do it here. You have to go back to the e-form. Here is the declaration on honor. That something is related. Some of them is related to the exclusion criteria of the call. And then here we have the participant. This participant, the information as well is retrieved from the information you have submitted in the e-form. So if you want to change it, you have to go back to the form. And here is you will be asking some information overall if there will be a specific departments with your organization that will be responsible in the management of the action. And here you can link the beneficiaries with its linked affiliated entities, for instance. Now you have finished the part A, you have to validate the form. You will receive some warnings. So in order to submit it, to save it, all these warnings must disappear, of course. And then we cover part A. Now we are entering the part B, that is really the content of your proposal. And it's very linked to the award criteria, because in part B, you have to integrate these award criteria in the description and of your action. So I will ask Jose also to come back with us.
Thank you, Christina. As you saw, I didn't lie to you when I said that it was technical. Huh? So keep your seatbelt fastened because it will continue. We will just have a parenthesis now to talk about something with which you are probably most familiar, because the award criteria have not changed as compared to the previous program. We are always basing the analysis of the content of your proposals on 4 criteria, which are relevance, quality of the project design, quality of the partnership, and impact. You can see here the points allocated to these 4 aspects, with more points allocated to the relevance, the purpose, and the quality of the design. And then we have 30 points for these 2 criteria, and then 20 points for the partnership composition and the impact. 2 requirements in terms of assessment. A project that would not reach at least 50% of the points in one of the criterion would not be eligible for funding, and the same applies to the overall score. The overall score needs to be of at least 60 points out of 100. So, as I said, you must be familiar with the award criteria. We will go through them quite quickly. They have been restructured in the program guide, and I think they are very clear in the way they are presented, with talking about relevance, 4 important aspects to take into account. The relevance is the purpose of the project. Why do you do it? How can you convince our experts that this project will indeed results from a need from the field, and will indeed bring an important EU added value if funded? So it is the introduction, the presentation of the project is the first chapter of your proposal, where you've got to convince the expert that the expert must continue reading your proposal. If you annoy an expert at relevant stage, then you already start with a handicap. So please concentrate there. Put your project in the perspective of the E plus priorities in terms of inclusiveness, in terms of green challenge, digital gap, and active democratic and civic participation. So these are concepts that you need to keep in mind, and that you need to put in the light of your answers to the relevance criterion. Purpose, added values, objectives. Of course, look also at the general and specific objectives of the actions, and mark your proposal within these objectives, and make your objectives smart. Make them realistic and achievable, because in this aspect also the experts are quite critical when they see interesting objectives, but they are not achievable within the scope of the action. That's keep your objectives within the scope of the action in terms of size of the partnerships, ambition, length of the project, and value of the grant, of course. This purpose needs to be embedded, needs to be supported by a clear needs analysis. This is also important. This needs analysis must be based, if possible, on verifiable facts and figures. It's very well if you know that there is a need for a certain type of intervention, but you don't demonstrate where these needs come from. Is it just your impression, or is it based on reality? It is clear that the more you can concretize the need for your proposal, the more you will be able to convince the expert. Last but not least, in terms of relevance, we expect projects that contribute and that support an active engagement of youth population in its diversity. We will see that also in the partnership composition, and which involve this youth population in the implementation of the project, from the preparation to the implementation, and as importantly to the dissemination of its results. Quality of the project design. Here you will see that in the new application form, there is a big challenge for you, because we will ask you to explain quite clearly and to formalize the organization of your project into work packages with milestones and deliverables. So this becomes an important aspect of the project. It has always been, but it's more, if you want, standardized now in this new application modality. Why is this the case? Because there is a big advantage, nevertheless, on the technicality. We cannot not only say it is complicated, more complicated than in the past. It will be also much simpler if you are selected, because the lump sum approach, we will address that in a few minutes after the break. The lump sum approach will allow you to forget everything about your expenditure and concentrate only on activities, and that's what the agency will ask at final report stage. So it is important, there is a need now to formalize more the methodology and the work package presentation in order to define your lump sum and to let the selected projects more free to forget about all invoices, justification, support documents for the cost incurred. We will come back to that. Of course, in the project design and implementation, we are looking also, the experts will be looking also at the cost effectiveness of your proposal. Third aspect, and it's an aspect which is at the heart of the EYT grassroots. If we say EYT grassroots, it's on the one hand because EYT has been always an action which aimed to have a good geographical spread in the partnership, and grassroots because for this specific call, we would like to bring into the world of European cooperation organizations which are working more at local level. So what do we expect what should you keep in mind, and what will the experts look at when assessing these criteria? Well, they will look at the mixed, the complementarity, the differences, the variety, diversity of organizations involved, with the necessary competence, of course, to implement the project as proposed. They will look at the geographic composition. We are expecting proposals that are reflecting the idiosyncrasy and diversity of Europe and of the youth sector in Europe. In this respect, we expect projects that would cover east, west, north, and south of Europe. I know that in the former EYT, in the traditional EYT, this concept of east, west, north, south was always an issue of questions. Is France a country from the north or from the south? I understand that you get to look at this with a certain flexibility. Of course, if you put Portugal, Italy, Spain, and Greece, it's difficult to advocate on the fact that this will be a project which will be a pan-European impact, since it is implemented only around the Mediterranean. So bear that in mind and ensure that your composition will reflect the variety that we have in our continent and in our union. Involvement, of course, of local NGOs, as we said, this is even an eligibility requirement to have organizations less experienced and that are working at local level. In this criteria, the experts are looking also about the balanced share of responsibilities and tasks among the partnership. So each partner should contribute in accordance to its specific competences to the implementation of the project. Cooperation arrangements you will have to describe how you intend to work with your partners in terms of, for instance, having a partnership agreement among yourselves to define who is responsible of what, to have the key deciding bodies in terms of administration, management of the fund, but also operational tasks implemented. So this is an aspect where you will also have to concentrate in order to convince the expert that your partnership is ready to work and disposes of all the necessary instructions, documents, agreements to ensure the commitment of all its parties. Last but not least, we have already said it in the first criterion, relevance, youth engagement. Demonstrate that within this partnership, the youth population involved in the organizations that are members will also be actors of the project. Finally, the last criterion, impact. I remind you, I repeat what I said in the introduction. We are here in key action 3, so the impact has to be seen at systemic level. It's not a key action 2 project where we aim to have a concrete output for the benefit of the network that has developed and delivered the result. We are here looking at projects that may have an impact on policy, may have an impact on the way the youth sector is perceived by national authorities, will continue an impact that will go much beyond the duration of the project. In terms of dissemination, this is also the part where you will have to demonstrate the capacity of the partnership to make your activities and of course your results visible and available to the larger population. Finally, a project is funded for a period of 2 years. We expect, and it's at the heart again of the action, that the network that has been built, that the experience that has been gained by these local actors will concretize in more cooperation activities in the future. So that's the sustainability part of the project. You will have to demonstrate how, after the end of your agreement with the agency, after the end of the funding period, activities will continue, under which forms, with what support and with what objectives. That's the part of sustainability. It's important, this is the application form on the right-hand side and the program guide on the left-hand side. When you will fill this part in part B, section 1 to 1 to 2 and 3, always look at the program guide. Ensure that each of these bullet points that you see of the left-hand side are fully addressed in the technical description of your project, what we call the technical description of your project, in these 3 sections of part B. This is an important element. Finally, keywords which are important. Coherence, I want to insist on coherence. It's a complicated process. In many parts, you will have to repeat some information. Be very careful. Proofread your applications 10 times. A stupid mistake like saying in the introduction that there will be 3 work packages and afterwards in the budget finding 4, having inconsistencies on data concerning the participant organizations, the expected results, all that will be detrimental to the result and to the assessment of your project. So be coherent, be complete, be clear also and concise. There is no need to put big sentences that at the end of reading it, the expert doesn't understand when it started. Don't be too complex. Be concrete and get to the point. That's all I can say. Yes, Christine already said it, so I will repeat it. Maximum 120 pages. And last but not least, I've said it in the award criteria. We've repeated on several occasions. There is an overarching strategy in Erasmus Plus, overarching priorities. These are the 4th one. There are also important aspects that appear in the introduction of the program guide, like, for instance, the use of open educational resources or the support to individuals, the elements to develop methods and tools for the recognition of competences and skills. All these generic aspects which are in the introduction of the program guide, I mean, you could read simply the section dedicated to European Youth Together and say, okay, I've got everything here. Don't do that. Read the part A of your program guide first, put into your head what Erasmus Plus aims to achieve globally, what are its main steering lines, its main guiding lines, and then go to the concrete of your EYT grassroots proposal. I'm amazed by the way we are keeping our timing. To be honest, I didn't believe it. We have 2 minutes. Well, when you hear my voice, it's most probably 5 minutes, because there is a décalage between we here in the meeting room and you hearing us at your place. So for me, it's 10:33, so we will stop now and give you 15 minutes, you and my colleagues and myself, 15 minutes of break to move your legs, to drink some water, and to get ready for the second part, which will be even more technical than the first one. Thank you for your attention, and we resume in 15 minutes.
Ah, moi c'est ça, plutôt que là. C'est bon? Ne touche rien. Thank you for inviting me. I'll be leaving you. Thank you so much.
Some sweet.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I should be the one giving.
Thanks a
for
lot.
inviting me.
Good luck for your proposal. If you will send it to this one, we will not say that there is a conflict of interest. We will not tell you anything that different than
Yeah, we will see. But thank you very much.
I'm going to stay here because I want to see how you sing the funny part. Who's going to do it?
Pleasure.
Let's see.
Just a recommendation.
Here we go.
Speak slower, I think.
I know that I have to say some mistakes that is quite difficult.
Yeah, but you
What
have
was
very
started
clear and it's easy to understand your words.
soon will be
Fast,
coming
you,
up on the
so you can do it. I don't want to make you nervous.
Let's see.
No, not at all.
But one word after the other.
No, yeah, that's, it's when you are excited by the subject. You speak faster. Yes, that I know. Thank you, I will try it,
Let's see.
No,
Let's see. Yeah. Let's see.
you can actually slow down. Also, if you don't really know
Let's see.
in your brain,
Let's see.
what you need to say.
One word story. Soon we'll be coming back. Up on the line. Let's see if we can find out. You know your new Birdman.
You're very good in doing it.
You see us go by.
Will make them available so you can consult them, because here is impossible to understand everything. So here is very visual, so we know the steps. It's just to be of the process, then I'm going to replace the here. So like slide and compare. Okay, there are some new
I actually think in the end, when
down. Leave the icon behind and feel the circus moving on. Are you leaving for the country? I know a little country town where dogs are sleeping in the road and the flagpole's falling down. Fines hold the wheel in time, spread their weight and let the planet spin. Do you feel like something's not real? Let the spirit move you again. Are you leaving for the country?
¿Este es el tuyo?
Okay, welcome back to this last part of the presentation. We hope that you have enjoyed a good break and you have regained some forces and motivation, because we are covering now the most technical part of this presentation. That is, we are going to show you how to present your work plan and your budget for your proposal. Okay. As Jose explained here, for this in view connected with the lump sum funding model, the work plan will be structured in work packages. Work packages is a grouping of different activities, project activities. You can add so many work packages as you want, but there are at least the first one has to refer to the project management and coordination task, and the last work package has to always refer to the dissemination issues. For each work package, you have to identify a main objective, a main outcome of the work packages, and also the activities and the milestones that these work packages will be structured, and also the deliverables that are connected with the expected outcomes for each work package. For each activity, you will have to identify also a specific task, and also the participant will be involved in this task, as well as this task will be subcontracting. We have here a recommendation of minimum 3 work packages, but of course it depends on the nature of your project, the complexity, and so on. There is not a maximum. In the section of in the Form B, you will have also some mention of the financial support to third parties. For EYT grassroots, this is not applicable. Okay, here in the task activities, you have to identify the task for each activities, giving a description, and also the participant involved. For the codification of the roles of the participants, you have the coordinator, beneficiary, affiliated entities, associated partners, and other means of contracting most of the time. For definition, proper definition of each role, you are invited to see the glossary in the program guide. The section of the subcontracting will have to be aligned with the Part B, the budget, that we'll see later on in the budget form. Okay, the activities have to be structured in milestones, even if, again, this is depends on the nature of your work plan and your project and the complexity. But of course, what is mandatory and very important are the deliverables, because they are connected to the project's outcomes, and this helps to measure the progress of your work. And as said, this lump sum funding model is based on the deliverables to calculate the final grant. So for the deliverables, you have to list them, to give a description, comprehensive description of what's the content, who is leading the deliverable, and for the type of the deliverables in the form, you will find a codification. This is maybe not very suitable for European Youth Together grassroots action. So you can use those which are useful for you, but you are free to add so many others you want to add, like material, training material, videos, any kind of output. For the dissemination level, this box, you will find also some codification. This part of the dissemination level is connected with the section 3.2 of the part B that it was connected. You have already replied in this previous section. And here, for our advice, we would limit this dissemination level to 3 levels for EYT grassroots action, that is local, national, and European Union level. For the estimated budget, this is a summary of the estimated budget that will be later on. You have to encode it again in the Part B budget form. So our advice is that, first of all, you encode the budget in the budget form, and then you encode it here. There is one estimated budget per work package. Then we will see, once we are explaining how to fill the budget form, we'll come back to the budget categories and give a brief explanation of what you have to encode of each of them. This part of these boxes refers to events and mobility. This refers to the whole, this information have to list all the events and for the whole project. And then the timetable in monthly basis. Okay, subcontracting. We have the specific table here for the subcontracted. In the budget, we will see that there will be also a section for each work package. You have to add the subcontracted. We must remember that subcontracting refers here to outsourcing of the project's activities. In principle, the beneficiaries have to have enough operational capacity to implement all the activities, but a residual part of them can be subcontracted to third parties beyond the partnership. Please keep the rules of subcontracting, like the best value for money, and of course, what we call the core task that regards mainly the management task of the project cannot be subcontracted. You have to give detail here, the reason why you're subcontracting, and also identify, if possible at this stage, also the possible subcontractor. This is the last part of the application B. We have made here a lot of red. That means that it's not relevant for our call for the European Youth Together. Very important, however, is point 6, that is regards that it has to be completed. And for the annexes, as we explained before, there are only 2 that they are mandatory. That is the part B. The part B narrative part, that is this part, and the part B that will be the budget. The other annexes are optional. That means that, as we refer at the beginning of the presentation, this is a standard form for all the Erasmus Plus actions. So for some of them, these annexes are mandatory. For us, for EYT, are not relevant. The uploading or not of these annexes will not add anything in the assessment or the possibilities, chances of success of your application.
Thank you, Christina. Before now entering into the budget, just a few messages to underline even more what Christina said. First of all, on the work packages, don't confuse a work package with an activity. If I take an example, if you intend to do training, training as a whole should be a work package rather than having all the training modalities that you intend to implement in accordance to different calendar time or different target audiences. So work packages are a group of activity which result into a concrete one or more, but in general a concrete deliverables. So think about your deliverables. So, sorry, I was, the mic was not on. I was talking about work packages and not confusing it with activities. So work packages are linked to concrete deliverables. Think about the deliverables of your project. What do you intend to achieve? What do you intend to put on the table at the end of your project? Because I repeat, that will be the core of our assessment at final report stage. We won't care how you have used the 150,000 euros. We will care that the deliverables are there and that the work packages have been implemented in accordance to what you have promised. So don't put too many work packages, as Christina said. We expect to have at least 3 because there are 2 mandatories and then 1 for activity for the main deliverable in the middle. But if you have 3 deliverables, then you will have 3 work packages for the activities. Be modest, because the more work packages you will put, the more complex the budget that you will have to design, and that we'll show you in a few minutes will be. There are also, and Christina said it, these applications are generic and coming directly from the research environment. So you will see a lot of codes, in particular in the part concerning dissemination type and dissemination level. Dissemination level is EU classified, confidential, EU secret. It goes without saying that this doesn't apply to European Use Together projects. So in terms of type of deliverable, describe using some of these codes if they are relevant, like for instance website, you can use the code which is there, but don't hesitate to put free text as it is written in the slide in order to describe what is the type of deliverable you intend to do. And in terms of level, rather than talking about level of confidential, secret or whatever, we invite you to indicate there the scope of the dissemination. In other words, this deliverable will be used at local level, or will be used at national level, or will be used at European level. This will help also the expert to assess better the different results that you intend to achieve. The budget, we will come back to that in a second, and as Christina said, don't bother about the budget in your part B. First of all, do it in the Excel sheet that Christina will present in a moment, and then go back to your part B to fill in this sort of summary budget in the E form. Concerning finally the subcontracting, Christina said it. We want to have projects that are implemented by the partnership and not by external consultants. At the end of the day, within the youth strategy, we talk about empowerment. So empowerment of the organizations implies that they are active players in the project they do, and they don't rely on the expertise of outside organization. Now, this can happen in terms, for instance, of developing a website or organizing an event, but nevertheless, in terms of learning how to cooperate at European level, the participating organization should take that in their own hands. And last but not least, the mention of Christina concerning the annexes. She said it, I will repeat it. Everything which is optional will not be looked at by the expert in order to avoid unfair treatment of those that have said, okay, I don't put the CV. So my recommendation, our recommendation would be don't just put what is mandatory, what is optional or not required by the call should not be there, because we will instruct our expert to concentrate on the mandatory part. And now we can go now to the budget, and I give back the floor to Christina.
Okay, for the funding mechanism, we have other of the novelties introduced for the EYT grassroots action, and this is in line also with the strategy of the European Commission to use simplified forms of grants in the implementation of EU programs. This is in terms of simplification also for the simplifying the work also for the beneficiaries who are presenting their cost. For EYT grant, it's been decided that we will be using a non-prefixed lump sum contribution to the project cost. What that means that the authorizing authority that will be granting the grant will be deciding your grant based on 3 elements. One is the estimated budget that you will be presenting now with your application form according to the template that we will be presenting afterwards. It will be taking into account the evaluation results. A group of external experts will assess your application together, the content and the financial part, and on the basis of that will be judging also your proposal in terms of financial management and cost efficiency. And finally, the third criteria to fix this lump sum will be the funding rates that are set in the call. There are two types of ceilings. A fixed amount that is a maximum of 150,000 euros per project, and a co-funding rate of the 80% of the estimated cost. On the basis of this, with this in mind, with those funding rules, you have to draft your budget. The budget form is an Excel, and there are, here you will see all the parts, all the sheets that will have this Excel file. You will have only to fill the ones that are marked in red. First of all, read the instruction. You will see the first part, the instruction, read it carefully, and of course follow the instruction on just filling only the required cells, because this template has a lot of automatic calculation. Don't try to modify them, of course. And very useful tool, and we strongly recommend you to use it, is the last sheet of this work, that is any comments. You will see it's a light, if you have submitted any budget in the past for use on EYT, it's light version, and there are not in the past like the description of the cost, etc. So if you think that you need to provide any justification, any further explanation regarding maybe your internal policies, the rates you are using, etc., please put everything in the need comments. We prefer just, if you are not sure, just put it. It will help us very much to the expert to better understand your budget. Okay, so here is the first part, the instruction. You have to fill two parts. That is the requested maximum contribution according to what we have set, the 2 ceilings, and then at the bottom of the instruction there is this small box that is direct personnel cost. This is to encode it manually. It refers to the profiles and functions of people, personnel allocated to the project that will be working in the project. Here you just have to do that, identify the profiles. It's not necessary to give any name or personalize, just the function.
Pay attention on the fact that the name, the header of this section A1 is misleading. So it's talking about employees' man days. In reality, is type of employee, type of profiles of organizations that will be involved in the project. It's nothing to do with the mandate. So sorry for this this error which appears in the form. And this part which Christina is presenting is instruction spreadsheet. So you have not only instructions, at the bottom of it, you will find a certain number of data that you need to encode so as to continue with the next steps in presenting your budget.
Sorry, now I'm sure that I switched on the micro. Sorry very much. Okay, let's try to continue. Okay, so the first thing that you have to do for preparing your budget is to encode the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries, as presented before, you have already encoded it in the form. Here you have to encode it, the names. You don't need the PIC, but please keep it coherent with the names, legal names as it appears in the part A. Then here you have all the steps, how to do it, and then don't forget to click on the apply changes, because once you fill this sheet with the work packages, the other sheets will be activated in the workbook. So, okay, you have here how to encode it, and then the other thing that you have to encode is the list of work packages. Of course, keep also coherent with the part B. And there you have to list all the work packages regardless of the beneficiaries. And of course, again, you have to, don't forget to apply changes, because other calculation, other sheets will be automatically generated. Because once you have encoded both beneficiaries list and work packages list, there will be a budget generated for each beneficiary. Each beneficiary will have a budget for their cost and also for the affiliated entities linked to this beneficiary. In the budget for each beneficiary, it will be split also the cost by work package. So each beneficiary will have to encode the budget for each work package. If some costs are not foreseen for one work packages, it's not needed to fill it, that's for sure. And you have to estimate costs. We will see now the breakdown of costs. Using the same methodology you will be using as preparing a real cost-based budget. So keep it in mind, the principle of some financial management and cost efficiency, because these are aspects that will be taken into account, as we said, for determining the final lump sum for the experts. Okay, so let's have a look at how this budget looks like. You see there are 4 main categories of cost. That in fact at the end there are only 3 sorry, because the section, the budget category D, the financial support to third parties, as said previously, is not applicable for European Youth Together grassroots actions. Here on the left we have provided you with some recommendation, let's say like that, on how to fill this budget and some definition that could help you. For instance, the direct personnel cost, of course, it refers also always to permanent employees of the organizations which are allocated to the project, or assimilated staff, that means with permanent contracts. Here we have 2 specific categories of personnel costs, that is SME owners without salary and volunteers. This, in principle, should be considered as in kind, and then will not be applicable for EYT, unless you can justify that there are some costs that will be the organization could claim under these 2 profiles of personnel. In those cases, justify it in the any comments page, please. Subcontracting, as you say, will be this part for each work package in line with the table we have already seen in part B. For the direct personnel costs, you have to encode the units and the cost per unit. For personnel costs, we recommend you to use daily rates, yes. And that, you see, this is the methodology for introducing the cost, is to use units and a unit cost. For equipment, you have to use the sheet C2 of the budget. That is a tool that has been conceived by the developers of this budget that will help you to calculate the exact depreciation cost for the use of the equipment during the lifetime of your project. It's very useful. We encourage you to use it. And for the equipment here, we will see this sheet later on. And then, as you said, you have to only encode these three budget categories, and then the rest, the total, will be calculated automatically by the workbook. And then you have, of course, a flat rate of 7% of indirect cost that is calculated automatically. You have to encode this cost for any work packages, the beneficiary is participating and claiming cost. This is what I was talking about, the precision sheet tool. You have to encode manually, that's again, but you have to research type, you have equipment, infrastructure, other assets, so you have, you can include other assets like furniture, vehicles, machines, etc. You have to encode the different data that will help to make the calculation, like the allocation of the time this equipment will be allocated to the project. And then the charge depreciation cost per investment is the rate that is calculated automatically. So this is the amount that you have to encode manually. Again, go back to your budget, beneficiary budget, and code it manually in the section, in the budget category C2. So this is the other sheet that you have to encode something, that is the proposal budget sheet. Here, this is the whole summary of the budget per beneficiary. And then you see the two last columns refers to the maximum EU contribution. The first one in the left is calculated automatically. The one on the right, you have to encode it manually, because maybe you are not requesting the maximum as calculated by the system. Please be aware of having the all green arrows. That means that, and one tip that I discovered just yesterday is that you have to enter decimals, because if not, you will have, if you enter number, the whole number will have a red cross, so it's not good. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Christina. So again, some repeating, because this is a repetition exercise also for us. It's an integrated budget table on Excel with several spreadsheets in which many parts are automatically generated. So please, as Christina said, read the instructions and start providing the information to generate these pages. The information you need to provide are your partners, again, coherence with what you've said in part A and B of the application concerning the partnership composition. And the second is the work packages, again, coherence with the description of the work package as it has been presented by Christina a few minutes ago. The system asks you to confirm your changes, so I was testing it also last week. Be careful, you've got really to click twice and be sure that the system is generating new information. As you could see on the screen, you can add beneficiaries, or you can add affiliated entities. You see each row is identified with its own information, removing a beneficiary or including under this beneficiary an affiliated entity. When this is done, let's say you have 5 partners and you have 3 work packages, it means that the same budget will be repeated, or the same categories of information will be repeated 5 multiplied by 3, 15 times. So what you see here on the right-hand side, and which ends with a dark gray line, is one work package. And below that, immediately you see again direct personnel cost for a second work package, which this time is called research. If you add a third work package, it will be even below. So each partner will, for each partner, either the coordinator or the partner themselves, will have to fill all the information required, what are the resources or the efforts needed in order to implement work package 1 by beneficiary 1. And then below that, work package 2 by beneficiary 1, and so forth. There is a spreadsheet next to it, which is the same for beneficiary 2, beneficiary 3, up to beneficiary 5 if there are 5 beneficiaries. If you have affiliated entities, there is no independent spreadsheet. The columns will be duplicated on the same spreadsheet of the main beneficiary. Let's say beneficiary 1 has 1 affiliated entity. So these columns, the 4 columns that you see on the right-hand side, they are simply duplicated next to them in order to count within the same group the cost of the main entity and its affiliated entity. What Christina told you about comments is very important. The budget table is, I hope, very well developed. We may find issues, and you are there to alert us in this respect if you are confronted with any problems. It's very well developed, but it doesn't give you a lot of possibilities to comment or to put details. As you can see, the categories are prefixed. The categories of budget are prefixed, and the only value that you need to introduce is the number of units and the cost per unit in order to arrive to a total. So don't hesitate, as Christina recommended you, to use the final spreadsheet, which is general comments. And there you can specify what you have put under equipment, or what you have put under subcontracting, or why do you include costs related to volunteers. Okay? I'm not talking about depreciation. So at the end, you have this summary, which is also a budget table, which is the consolidation of everything you will have encoded. As Christina said, you get to ensure that these 3 ticks that are highlighted in yellow there in the red box on the right-hand side, that these 4 ticks are positive. Otherwise, you see a cross, a red cross, which means there is something wrong. And we discovered recently that what could be wrong is the decimals, which are not displayed, but which nevertheless, if you don't introduce them, they will not match with the part next to it. As Christina said, in this project, the maximum EU grant would be 18,153, because the total budget was 22,000, and you just have to confirm. If you consider the Commission, the agency, is much too generous with our project, and you want to apply for 15,000, you can of course do that. If you want to apply for 20,000, then there is a problem, because you would not reach the necessary co-funding requirement of 20%. And that's it for the budget. Now there is we conclude with a final part, and I leave Christina to tell you about this one and also about the submission process.
Okay, yes, there is one still missing part to be filled in. If you remember, we are back to the E form, and it's this button Edit Part C. Here, in fact, it again refers to statistical data that is important for the program management, and here we are referring to the youth goals. That, of course, you have a maximum 3 that you can tick, but you can only tick 1. As we are talking before about the European Commission priorities, it has to be coherent with your action. It's not that a question of quantity. It's not meaning that taking the 3 you are going to have more possibilities. However, this part is compulsory, so you have to fill it, and we will be very grateful for assessing. This will help to assess the contribution of your action to the youth goals. And now you are ready already for validating and submitting your proposal. We are coming back to this section of uploading documents. We repeat, the parts in red are mandatory, the others optional, And remember the page limit to 120. When you will upload, technically it will be possible to upload documents longer than 150, but you will have a warning message saying the excess of 120 will be disregarded by the expert during the assessment process. So everything is in the system, so you are ready to submit, and then the story continues with the evaluation period. Now you have submitted, you have done your job, so now is the job of the agency, and the expert will be evaluating your proposals against the different criteria that we have been presenting today, according to the funding available, and then this is as an estimated timetable, but we are also subject to some deadlines for the in terms of budget management, and by December 2021 the results should be published if nothing happens. You want to? Okay, and then for finishing, well, you will have this presentation, but you will not be alone in this process, as we repeat in the beginning. We repeat. Just keep in mind the program guide. This is your reference document, and then from the submission you have here in the portal a very useful section that is called support. There you have all the guidance documents, the online manuals, even the program guide. You can find it there, and other regarding the registration of your organization. Very useful. And then the help desk. You have two kinds of help desk. If you are encountering some technical problems during submission process, you have the IT help desk that you have to contact them through a contact form that you will find in here. And for any question regarding the content, we are not going to write the proposal for you, but questions about the program guide, something that is not clear, you contact us to our functional mailbox, and we'll be very pleased to reply you. It was very interesting that our project coordinator shared with us a very useful tip that myself, I always also share with the beneficiary, that please always ask before doing something. If you have a doubt, we are here to assist you, and it's also from your benefit and also for our benefit, because we will be receiving good quality proposals if you ask, and so we will always available for replying. And then we have here the FAQ section, that there are two kinds in the participant portal. There is one general that it covers all the questions for all the EU programs, but you have filters there. You can by topic questions about the admissibility criteria, about the submission process, and then we hope that we will be soon able to publish a specific FAQ in our topic page, but it depends on you. We are already receiving some questions from you. We are collecting them, and those we are not replying today now in the next session, we will be replying to you by email, and will be nourishing this document that will be made public. And then the floor is yours, let's say like that, and we are waiting for your questions, and we are here to try, at least today, to reply and to give the most information as we can at this stage. Thank you
very much. Many thanks, Christina. And I want to repeat what you've just said. This is just the beginning of an information service that is at your disposal, and that would be at your disposal up to the last minute before the deadline. Of course, I want also to repeat what she said in the introduction, is that don't wait the last minute before the deadline. And in particular this year, be cautious, prepare your application, submit it preferably 2 days before the deadline, so that you can relax and be sure that there will be no hiccups. It's very sad that when a partnership has been investing a lot of time and resources in preparing an application, that this partnership is found suddenly with not enough time to submit it, with own problems at their end or even at our end, and this could jeopardize an important effort made by all your partners. So take your time, discuss with your partners, but don't delay. Putting into practice what we have told you today. And I repeat also, we are and we remain at your disposal to assist you further in the implementation, either through the FAQ section in the portal, but also through the functional mailbox that you have already been using in order to send us some general questions now. I will start with some of your questions, and my colleagues will most probably feed us with more. We will try to answer them all. We have time. We have still more than half an hour ahead of us to do that. So don't hesitate to send questions. If ever it appears that we have no time, you can still continue sending questions after the end of this session, and we will address them either individually or collectively within this FAQ document to be published on the portal. The first question is a question that I will read. What is the difference between capacity building in the field of youth, partnership for cooperation in the field of youth, and European NGOs and European youth together? No, sorry, partnership for cooperation in the field of youth for European NGOs and European youth together at grassroots level. Well, the difference, I try to explain it in my introduction, is mainly on the structure of the program. The first two actions that I mentioned here are capacity building in the field of youth as partnership for cooperation in the field of youth for European NGOs, are two actions that belong to Key Action 2. Key Action 2 targets the institutions, the organization. The impact, the result are developed, are delivered for the benefit of the organizations. If we go one level lower in the program, Key Action 1, we target individuals. The traditional mobility of Erasmus, of learners, of pupils, of professors, of youth, of sport activities, all that is KA1. In the middle, and these are the two actions, you have organizations, cooperation at organization level. And then on the top of this pyramid, you have Key Action 3, which aims at delivering results at policy level, raising awareness on the EU strategies and EU policies in the different sectors of education, training, youth, and sport. So that's the main difference. Of course, if we look at eligibility criteria, you could say, but it's the same thing. We've got to put in place a partnership, and we have to work together and arrive at a result. Yes, look at this result, and then ask yourself, is this a result that will be used at my organization level, that will be practical for the daily work of my organization, or is this a result that I aim to bring to the attention of policymakers and authorities at regional, national, or European level? That's the concept of the policy support action, which includes many other actions than EYT. For the time being, in the program guide, there is only EYT, but there are other actions. I referred to earlier on to the national working group that are supporting the EU Youth Dialogue. I could refer also to the civil society cooperation action that has not been launched this year, but will be launched as from in future calls. All these actions, studies, reports, events, awareness raising, new innovative experimentations at policy level, all these actions are part of KA3. I hope this clarifies a little bit the difference. I understand the question, and it's true that you've got to put you in mind, to put you in the mindset to have this pyramid in mind and to consider what is expected from those projects at the top of the pyramid, those that are there to support policy developments at European level. Another question, what is a grassroots organization? I'm sorry, I also said it at the beginning, I don't have a there is no eligibility definition of a grassroots organization. That's why we, in order to ensure that at least there is some guidance to ensure that our partners are not only the usual suspects or the normal users of our funding possibilities, we have included this rule that at least two organizations, or at least half of the organization, should not have been benefiting from a grant under EYT in the last two calls. But this is not sufficient to limit and to define grassroots organization. It's better to look at their portfolio of activities. If an organization is working essentially at local level with very limited cooperation beyond their local situation. This local situation can be in a city or in a region or even in a country. If this organization scope of activities is limited to these borders without having been given the possibility to work actively and to be more visible actively at European level, then it would be considered as a grassroots organization. I want to repeat two things: an eligibility criteria on one hand. If you fulfill this criterion by demonstrating that at least half of your organizations have not benefited from a grant in EYT in the last 2 years, you will fulfill the eligibility criteria. And then we will enter into award criteria where the experts will look at, in particular, award criterion 3, which covers the composition of the partnership. And there they will most probably go maybe to the website of your partner organizations to look, is this indeed an organization that we could consider as being grassroots, or on the contrary, is this a well-known organization working for a long time and having a long history of European cooperation projects funded by our programs? That's part of the overall assessment. It will not lead to the automatic rejection. It will lead to a different assessment according to what the expert has perceived in the composition of your partnership. Another question on how is a partner exactly defined? I'm going to read the question. We would like to apply as acronym WORD, Legal International Non-Profit Base in Belgium. Legally, our national committees with which we organize most of our events are separate entities, i.e. separate non-profit organizations. Can we consider different national committees as partner organizations? Again, we get to distinguish between an eligibility answer and award criterion answer. On the eligibility grounds, yes, if these organizations are independent, even if they are associated to your organization through a membership or whatever, they are independent entities. You could have a network composed of your national committee and the headquarters of your organization. This being said, I remind you that in the composition of the partnership, we're looking also about complementarity and diversity. In this respect, if this is already a composed and existing network, the expert would be entitled to raise the question to say, yeah, I can see that the national branches in certain countries are less active than others, but after all, all these organizations are already organized into a well-functioning structure, visible at European level or even worldwide level in this case. Is there really an added value? Do they bring this level of this grassroots dimension to the project? That's something that you get to ask yourself. So by reading your question, I would tend to say, you will fulfill the eligibility criteria, but if you limit your partnerships only to your national committees, there are good chances that the expert will consider that the grassroots dimension, the diversity, the complementarity is not fully addressed. Following question, I'm going to be dry in 5 minutes. What is the suggested balance between newcomers and experienced organizations? We are always turning around the same question, and there is no answer. There is no systematic answer to that. I think I've been clear in my previous answers. What is the suggested balance? I cannot give you a magic formula. You have, in terms of eligibility, as I said, some requirements, and in terms of added value and relevance of the composition. If you have a limited partnership of only 4 partners with, let's say, 2 newcomers and 2 experienced, okay, it's small, but it's eligible, and maybe in terms of relevance, you will demonstrate, in terms of relevance and competences, you will demonstrate to the expert that the impact of this project may be very most valuable in the context of a policy support action. You can have also a network of 15 partners, 20 partners, out of which half of them are newcomers, because this is the eligibility criterion. But the large composition could be seen as difficult to manage, could be seen as with a budget of 150,000 euros, 20 organizations, 2 years, the project is too ambitious. I'm saying this, but please don't use my figures as an indicator. We should not have 20 partners. It's just a way to express to you that at the end of the day, it's a balance between fulfilling the eligibility criteria and adapting your composition to what are the best way to address your objective and to achieve the results that you intend to achieve with the grant. Next question. Applicants for the next deadline should be or suggested to be newcomers. Again, there I cannot give you any prescription. To state it clearly, everything which is stated in the program guide in terms of eligibility of the applicants, of the organizations, of the number of partners, of the duration of the grant, are decisions, yes, binary decision. You fulfill it, you're in. You don't fulfill it, you're out. So the program doesn't say anything about the fact that the applicant should be a newcomer or should be an experienced organization. There could be added values on both. Again, this has to be seen in a global perspective. Following question. If we meet the criteria of 4 members of the consortium being from Europe for Erasmus programs, could the other 2 or so partners be from the partner countries, or all of them need to be from the program countries? So in order to be eligible for benefiting from the grant, you need to be an organization based in a program country. In other words, if you add partners from partner countries and you fill in the budget with costs related to these partners, they will not be considered eligible. So they will be deleted from your budget, and the consequences is that you may find yourself in the best situation with a project which is proposed for funding, but half of your budget has been cut because it was supposed to be given to non-eligible partners. So don't add partner country organizations as full members. Now, if in the description of your project, in the part of relevance, in the part of the consortium composition, in the part of the impact, you want to work with associated members from non-program countries, organizations coming from non-program countries, i.e. from partner countries, you can always do that. I mean, associated partners are there to support your initiatives without benefiting from the grant. So we cannot prevent you from being supported, I'm going to say, for instance, by an organization from Albania, because you are working with Serbia and Macedonia, and from North Macedonia, who are both program countries, and you say, okay, in this context, Bosnia-Herzegovina and Albania can also bring an added value, but they are not partners. Mention them as associated if you want, but don't include them in your budget, because otherwise your budget will be cut. Now there are questions concerning the award criteria, but rather the first one is more on the budget. The lump sum value will be limited to a maximum of 80% of the estimated budget determined after evaluation. Is 80% the funding rate, or does the previous sentence mean that 80% of the grant will follow lump sum model, while other 20% will be a different funding model? It's a good question. It's a good question which could be confusing. The 80-20 rule applies exclusively to the preparation of your budget, to the reality and the reliability, the coherence, the comprehensiveness of your estimated budget. Estimated budget must represent 100% of your costs, and that helps us then to define automatically through the Excel sheet what is the maximum value of the grant within the limit of 150,000 euros maximum. Let's say that you have presented a budget of, let's be simple and don't use difficult mathematical formulas, you have presented a budget of 100,000 euros, your maximum grant will be 80,000. We may have cut here or there some costs which were either ineligible or seem to be overestimated, and we arrive at a total of 75,000 euros. 75,000 euros will be your lump sum. As from there, we are not concerned anymore with the 100,000 that we put. We are not concerned anymore with the 80,000 that we calculated. We are not concerned with the 75,000. We are concerned by your results. The 75,000 are awarded to you, and I've already said it, I repeat, and we will repeat it on many occasions, I believe. At final report stage, we don't look at costs. As a result, in answering the question of this participant, we are not concerned by the 20%. We are not even concerned by the 80%. We are concerned by the results. We are concerned by the outputs, by the deliverables, by the way your work packages, as identified in your applications, have been implemented correctly and fully. If this was not the case, if some deliverables were not delivered, if the work package was implemented partially, well, the assessment will lead to a reduction of the lump sum, the maximum lump sum awarded to your project, in proportion to the parts which have not been delivered or developed. Now, how is a project actually defined? Now we are entering into philosophical questions. How is a project actually defined? In our organization, we have a lot of recurring events in Europe with every year different themes. People all around the world meet. Could such events be eligible for the grant? Beside that, we have also our own projects with which we try to create direct impact in our communities. Are such projects eligible? If this is part of the normal activity of your organization, the innovation aspect, the added value of your project may be downscaled. I mean, the way I read it here is we are doing all those things normally. Can we use your grant to continue doing it as we were doing them? And the answer would be, in principle, no. A project must be something new, must be something that brings an added value as compared to what exists today in your activity, in the youth sector in general. This is not an operating grant. For those who are familiar with operating grants, the Commission, the agency, award operating grants to organizations in order to implement their normal work program. And there, of course, we want you to present what is your work program, and we support it. Here we ask you to do a project which goes beyond what you do normally. In principle, again, in line with a previous answer, with a network of organizations which are not those with which you work on a regular basis, so that needs to link to a dynamic effect in improving or raising awareness, improving the conditions in which the youth population is treated in the local, national, and European context. I've reached the end of this first group of questions. I hope that I have addressed them comprehensively. I repeat, we will take these questions, we will draft our answers, and we will do our best to publish them. For the time being, you have a first answer live, and I apologize if this answer is sometimes still it's new for us also. So we've got to understand if you come back in 2 years' time, I'm sure that we will answer with more concrete elements on the action, which is new for us also. But that's certainly what we can say for the time being. Now, let's continue with other questions. If a partner is a volunteering NGO, i.e. no employees, does it mean that it won't be able to join the consortium and participate in the project? How can we justify its costs? Good question again. First of all, the fact that you are a volunteering NGO with no employees doesn't imply that you don't have other types of costs. You will have costs for your mobility, may have costs for your equipment, you may have costs for organizing events or training or whatever. All these costs are fully eligible. What you are talking about here is the part on personnel cost. So we don't need necessarily a formal employee. As you will see in the different categories that appear in the first part of this budget model, there are different type of employees between guillemets or hyphens or whatever it's called. I cannot answer when you say we are an NGO with no employee. Does that mean that everybody is working on a voluntary basis? Does that mean that you don't recruit freelance actors to manage your website? Does that mean that you don't have personal secretariat or administrative support? All that is eligible. The main principle is that the grant is there to reimburse the cost. If there is no cost, there should not be any reimbursement. So you will define your budget. We never add personnel cost in our organization, and we will continue to work like that. Okay, then don't ask the program to support a cost that you don't support in normal circumstances. Now, if because of the project you need to recruit a particular web designer, or you need to recruit a trainer who will develop the material for your organization during a few months, you can do that. You can recruit personnel on an ad hoc basis and put the number of days, the effort required, in the relevant section of the budget form. How and where is possible to register in a data partner search? 2 people asked for this. Great. I must confess my ignorance, but I suppose that the portal that Christina presents you, and there is a section partners interested in the action, there should be a link there that allows any organization to present itself and to be included in this list of interested partners. So please surf a little bit on the section. You want to say something? And Christina is going to tell you now the magic way to reach that.
No, in fact, as is a functionality of the participant register, you have to be firstly registered as an organization in the portal. So they are, when you're in your account, you will have access and to show and to publish your offers, and also, in particular, to publish your offers. But you have to be registered first of all.
Thank you, Christina. Could you explain more details? No, before that is it obligatory to have the quality seal to take part in this call? Straightforward answer, no, it is not obligatory. Could you explain in more details about the in-kind contribution? So far it was not accepted in Erasmus Plus Action. Christina explained that the form that you will have to use is a standard form, which includes sections which are even coming from the research area or which are applicable to other actions of the Erasmus Plus program. In our action, the in-kind contribution is not an eligible cost. It's not a cost that we will consider when assessing your estimated budget. So you should not put there if there is no cost. Now, we're talking about volunteers and also PME owners that don't have a salary. As Christina said, if there is a personal cost related to this type of group, you can indicate it, but then put it in your comments. But the principle is no cost, no request. Okay, and a contribution in kind is not a cost, and it's not an input that we consider for the budget. When will the documents, templates, and forms be available? We ask this question since inside the website, when clicking on the links which should direct to the documents, it appears as a coming soon message.
Yes, we have this question yesterday. So myself, I entered into the system and it worked. Just part of the funny parts of this submission process, there are technical issues, disruptions, bugs. I tried myself yesterday. I created a proposal. So in principle, documents are there. If the problem persists, contact us and we'll try to help you. But documents, I confirm that documents are available.
As Christina said, I think there are more than 400 calls that are open in the process of preparation in the portal. So it's possible also that you may have gone to a wrong action. To take one example, the capacity building youth action is still not fully open, and maybe this applicant is asking, this potential applicant is asking about that action. Some actions, I think the agency has more than 80 calls to open for this summer. And we have opened 40, so there are still many calls that are not open. Maybe this person has clicked on the wrong link. Try it again on EYT by putting the name of the action in the search field, and in principle, I cross fingers, I touch wood, you should find the forms and the templates there. I'll pass the floor now to Lene.
Yes, thank you, José. And yes, it is a bit confusing. There is actually a link on the call page, which leads to a page which says coming soon. And the reason for that is that at some stage, some of our IT personnel, they will upload the PDF files of all the application forms, but they are not there yet. What you have to do is ignore this link and actually scroll down, further down, and you will see a button which says Start Submission. And this is what Christina has shown you earlier on in the presentation, and that's where you have to click. And when you start submission, you will be able to see all the application forms and do your application, and then everything is in order. We have tested that several times, but it's true that there is actually a link which leads to a page saying coming soon, and it's because at some stage some IT personnel will upload some PDF files there. We don't know when, but it will happen apparently.
Thanks a lot, Lena. As you can see, we are all discovering, we are all testing, we are all finding answers to the question we have asked ourselves and that you are asking yourself also. So thank you, Lena, for this mention of the PDF form. If you don't need to wait for the PDF. If you go to the submission page and then you download part B, you will have a Word document which is identical to the one that will be uploaded in a PDF format. Do the projects and activities have to last 2 years, or can we propose several activities and projects distributed through these 2 years? Yeah, again, nothing prevents you to do that. My first reaction would be the project needs to be a global project, comprehensive and with a certain focus. If this is a compilation of activities where you cannot find the red thread between these different activities, when it's not packaged as one global project with a common goal, it may be seen as the expert as the addition of things with not a lot of relations between them. In addition, I would repeat, don't be too ambitious. Sometimes there is a say which says small is beautiful. Sometimes if you want to do too much by convincing the experts, you can obtain the reverse effect. The expert may say, and I've said it earlier on when talking about the award criteria, may say these guys have good intentions, but they will never manage to do all those things. Or these guys are presenting something which is very heterogeneous and where we cannot find really what they want to achieve. They just try to put things together to convince us about their goodwill, and we get no reason to doubt about this goodwill, but this is a competition. So the competition will bring at the top of the list those projects that are comprehensive, that have an ambition which is in line with the time frame, and with the grant maximum grant awarded. when should the starting date of the project be settled? This is a good question also, many good questions. We could not put it in the program guide this year, but Christina showed you a little bit the timeline. Huh? So in principle, after your deadline, we will take 3, 4, 5 months for finalizing the selection. The maximum duration that is given to us to provide the selection results to the applicants is 6 months, and we are obliged to do that. Parenthesis, for those who had submitted an application in the last EYT grant, you are probably laughing because we lasted almost a year to give the results, so I will laugh with you. But this was due to internal issues of eligibility of the selection that we had implemented in good faith, but our legal colleagues in the agency were concerned by some of the aspects, and this led to a delay on which I want to take the opportunity to apologize again. So going back to that, 6 months for notifying the result, that brings us to December 2021. So to be on the safe side, I would recommend that you start your activities, let's say, sometimes in the first quarter of 2022. This being said, if we have issues with issuing the contract and adapting the beginning of your contract to the start of your project, we will be in touch with you. We will most probably ask you to move a little bit your calendar in order to fit into the eligibility period. Is it possible to foresee mandatory PCR tests within the project mobility activities? Yes, I was wondering PCR, I was putting it in the context of EYT and I forgot about the COVID. Now I remember what PCR tests are, and we have all our nose full of PCR tests. Yes, they will be considered as an eligible cost, but again, they can be put in your estimated budget, and if indeed when we will assess this budget, we will see that there are mobility activities foreseen soon. I want to come back to that, and we will consider, yes, this is eligible. But at the end of the day, we are not concerned. I repeat, when you have your grant, you use it for PCR, you use it for vaccine, you don't want to PCR, that's your decision. Bear in mind, going back to the beginning of the activities in the first quarter of 2022, that we are all hoping that the PCR test will be an old history, and that with the vaccine we will not be needed to put our noses to the torture of these tests. But this being said, yeah, I mean, maybe COVID is there to stay, maybe we will need to do more. So on a safety approach, you can foresee part of your budget to that. Be modest nevertheless, and it is indeed considered eligible. Starting date PCR, I would like to know which impact is expected regarding youth involved. How many young people is expected to be trained or participate in forum debates to influence policymakers? Impossible to answer this with a figure that would be a magical figure that on what we expect. Again, it's related to the scope of your project and to the funding that we will give. You want to have many events presential, big events, big awareness raising events. Well, take into account that you have 150,000 euros, map that to your budget. The idea is that it's less the number of youth, of young people involved in your project that matters, is the intensity of their involvement and their capacity to activate their fellow youngsters to become, after your project, more active actors of youth policies at EU level. The number is secondary to that. It's the profile of the students, their capacity to be empowered, to be engaged, and to communicate, to come back to the EU youth strategy. Is a foundation, social enterprise belonging to a third sector, non-profit organization eligible as coordinator? Yes, if you are a non-profit organization or public authorities, you are eligible as applicant. Again, I repeat, eligibility rules are stated black on white in the program guide, and there we have no flexibility at all. So look at these eligibility rules. So eligible applicants are non-governmental organizations at European level if necessary, but not obligatory, or public authorities. Your foundation fulfills this criteria. In this case, you are eligible. You will understand that with this question, without having the organization, without seeing the status and so forth, I will not be able to answer. I take the opportunity also to say to all the applicants, please don't send us your status in advance. Do your homework and ensure that you are. If you are sure that you are, I'm convinced that we will be sure also. But with a question like that, with this type of information, I can only send you back to the program guide. Can schools apply for a grant within this program? Schools can be, again, can they enter into the definition? First of all, can they apply? There you are talking about the role of the coordinator. Can they participate? Certainly they can participate as any other organization. This is an action which is focusing youth, usually outside an educational context. Usually, I'm saying, because this is not either mandatory. So you can have a youth population also into formal education who are interested in active actions in terms of raising the voice of the youth sector at European level. So I cannot, it will depend on the status of the school, but I would tend to say, and again here I'm not in a yes or no answer, I would tend to say, if you are a school as an applicant, as the coordinator, demonstrate that your activities go beyond and much beyond the formal education system, that your interests are targeting the youth community and not only the educational structure at primary or secondary or university level. Yeah. With a yeah, the non-formal, the informal and non-formal education and training are, of course, at the heart of what we expect to support in the youth actions in general and in European Youth Together in particular. As per usual in other calls, can the 150,000 euros equal 80%? i.e. the project costs are 20% higher than the maximum funding available. Yes, I think we have already answered this question. I will not develop more. European Youth Together grassroots replaces the financial support that was available under Erasmus Plus program K3 support to policy reform, civil society cooperation, or there are two different opportunities for these organizations. We've got to put ourselves in perspective of the 2021 call, of a difficult year, of delays in the approval of the financial instruments, and still on the approval of the regulation of the program. For your information, we are talking here about a program which is still under discussion between the Parliament and the Council, and we hope that it will be formally approved by the end of this month or in the course of June. Which explains why the program guide now, if we compare it to the last program guide in Erasmus Plus 2014-2020, doesn't include as many actions, or some actions are not appearing. Be reassured, some actions could not be launched due to calendar issues, and in particular the one referred to in this question, the civil society support, which is an operating grant. An operating grant, by definition, covers the activities of an organization during the civil year, i.e. from 1st January 2021 to 31st of December 2021. As a result, we were not in capacity to launch a call, an open call for proposal that would support the operational cost of an organization in 2021. That would make no sense to open that now, to select them in December and to say, okay, we are funding you for everything you've been doing in the last 12 months. And this explains why this action is not in the call, in the program guide this year, but we have received, just to give you inside information, a message this morning that we are already preparing the 2022 call. So we are asked now to start adapting, complementing the call, and this applies to CSC, and it applies also to the former, more traditional EYT action to which some of you have applied in the past. Another question on the budget: what annual budget must be for the applicant local grassroots organization? I must confess that I don't understand fully the question. What annual budget must be for the applicant local grassroots organization? First of all, we've already said the applicant doesn't necessarily need to be a grassroots organization, although this could be a positive aspect if by being the coordinator they will develop and improve their expertise and their visibility at European level. But there is no element like an annual budget for the applicant. The budget is seen for the entire project. It is spread over a maximum of 2 years, and it is distributed among all the partner organizations in accordance to their competences, in accordance to the volume of activity, the efforts they will need to put into the project to achieve the results. So I'm sorry not being able to give a concrete answer to this question, but I think that the general interpretation of the budget and the way the grant will be calculated and awarded has been clarified already on several occasions. Final question that I have now: the peak needed is the OID we have for Erasmus Plus program, or is it another number? No, the OID is the number that is given to your organization by your national agency in the context of decentralized actions. The PIC is a requirement for all the beneficiaries of centralized actions. All grants that are awarded by the agency or by the Commission and by all the services for all the programs are awarded exclusively to organizations that are registered in the portal and that have been validated as eligible legal entities. So when you introduce the PIC number is another number to answer this question. You will see in the slide, the first slide that Christina showed concerning the portal. At the bottom end of that screen, there were a few bullets. Encore. More. Más para arriba. Stop. Yeah. You can see here at the bottom of the screen there is find partners, create an account, and register your organization. Under register your organization, you create your PIC. This is an automatic procedure. You don't need to have a validated PIC in order to apply. So you create your number. You will have to provide some documents related to your accounts in the previous years, and our colleagues from the financial services will look at that and will validate your legal entity and validate your PIC. You can submit an application with an invalid PIC, but you cannot have a grant if this PIC is not validated. So the answer to the question, this is not the right code. This is a code that you use for national agencies. There is another code. Go to that part of the portal in order to retrieve it. I'm coming to an end of all my questions, and I think you're coming to an end also of your questions, because my colleagues are nodding, saying that nothing has arrived, nothing new has arrived on the website. So we will conclude. I am looking at my colleagues if they want to add something on the presentation. So if there is nothing to add, if no question is arriving now, but anyway, we had hoped to finish at 12:15, 12:30, so we are perfectly in time. I want to thank my colleagues for respecting the timetable. I want to thank you for your attention. To reassure you also, I mean, being confronted with a new program, being confronted with a new tool, being confronted with a new application form is always a challenge, in particular when you've reached my old age. We are used to use traditionally the same tools, but we need to adapt. And I think that on the one hand, the lump sum approach will bring a lot of benefits to our participants. You can forget about keeping the invoice of the sandwich that you have eaten during a meeting. You can forget to keep your boarding passes. All that is past history. If you are selected, you will nevertheless have to concentrate on what is important, not anymore the use of the grant, but rather achieving the objectives that you've set for you and your partners. And that's what we will look at final report stage. So simplification on that hand. We expect also that this new application tool that will be used all over your project implementation. For those who are familiar with the research project, they know that eGrants is also used in a daily monitoring environment. So what you will see, what you will discover now by preparing your application is an environment that you will continue use in close cooperation with the agency for the 2 years of your project implementation, considering, of course, hopefully that you will be selected. So in this respect, also a certain simplification that we hope, or we are convinced, will bring an added value to you as well as to our agency. That's it. The last point is that, as we've said, and as I want to repeat once again, we remain at your disposal. The functional mailbox is there, and we will now translate these questions into answers that we will put on the portal very soon. I'm not giving you any commitment that this will be done in the next couple of days, because again here the way FAQs will be handled, they need to be handled through a different procedure, and this may take a little bit of time, but we will put the pressure to our colleagues to have it online as soon as possible. That's all. I wish you a good lunch. I wish you even a better and fruitful preparation of your proposals. And we look forward all together to receive many excellent applications that will contribute to the objective of the key action tree, and in particular for EYT and the youth sector. Thanks a lot, and looking forward to receiving your application on the 24th of June. Bye.